Seen them before. I think they were a little smaller then. Man, you guys are heavy. Heavier than you look anyway. Either I feed you too much or don't walk you enough. Which one do you think? Yeah, both. Pacific Rim Uprising. So Pacific Rim Uprising is the sequel to Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Robots versus monsters. Pretty much what you need to know. After they closed the breach at the end of Pacific Rim 1, we now have John Boyega, who plays the son of Idris Elba's character from the first Pacific Rim, and Gypsy Danger's not back. It's now Gypsy Avenger's the main one. No danger, I'm not gonna change your name to Avenger. And now new threats emerge, and now we have a sequel to Pacific Rim. It's clearly not directed by Guillermo del Toro. Prefacing this by saying it's gonna be hard to live up to the first Pacific Rim. I feel like the first Pacific Rim was lightning in a bottle. I mean, some people love it, some people hate it. I'm one of the ones who loved it, because Pacific Rim 1 was very self-aware. It knew what it was. Big robots versus big monsters, let's have some fun. But Pacific Rim 1 was elevated because you can tell it was directed by a very talented hand. I feel like this movie bit off a bit more than it could chew because it tried to expand its lore too much. I get for the sequel, you want to try new things, especially you look at the first Pacific Rim, you're like, all right, it's that rogue pilot. He's the best of the best. He's the only one for the job, but he doesn't want to do it. But of course, he ends up doing it. Then you have the best of the best of the best, who's his rival. They don't really like each other, but by the end, they're going to respect each other. It's pretty much Top Gun with big fighting robots and monsters. It's a cliche formula because it's been used 100 times before because it's worked 100 times before. Pacific Rim Uprising, I want to give it credit for stepping out in new ground, expanding its lore, going into new territory for Pacific Rim. That said, an attempt doesn't make a success. There's a story of a guy who attempted to fly off of the Eiffel Tower. Props for the attempt. Didn't work out well for him because he did not live through it. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, John Boyega is great in this movie. He elevates any movie he's in. You can take John Boyega, put him in a crappy movie, or at least take John Boyega and put him in the crappiest mission in a movie, and he will be the one who shines in that darkness because he is so damn likable and talented. And that's how he is in this movie. He has the microphone for about 90% of this film, or it's 75, but still, of the majority, it's pretty much John Boyega's movie. Starts getting dragged down because we concentrate too much on human beings. There's this little girl that comes into the fold at the very beginning, actually. She comes in around the same time John Boyega's character, and she's with these other kids, and you think it's gonna be this training thing, like maybe Kingsman, the Secret Service. Maybe it's gonna be a lot of training with them. We see their skills, not really. The two scientists are back. They were the ones from the first movie. I'm like, you overcooked it a little bit, but they did grow on me in the first film. They do something with Charlie Day's character in here. It's so so stupid. It's like a shittier version of something I saw in Mass Effect 2 somewhere. Take that how you will. Really, if you're looking for Jaeger on kaiju action, the kaiju really don't show up until the last act of the movie. Pacific Rim 1, there was dead space and they're filled with that cliche plot I was talking about. But at least, okay, I don't mean to keep comparing this to Pacific Rim 1, but anyone who said you can't compare the second movie to the first movie is fucking wrong because it's a sequel. You're allowed to compare it to the first movie. So if you're looking at Pacific Rim 1, it starts you out with a big fight. It ends you with a big fight. They fill in the gap with their cliches and actually their character intrigue. Yeah, there's a little bit of that in there. The Idris Elba's nose, you weren't curious for a little bit. It was bleeding. But the kaiju were always a presence because you saw news clips of them. There was a flashback in there. I mean, the end fight in this movie, sure, I kind of had not a smile, kind of a smirk, like, okay. The end fight was fine, but there's no jaw-dropping scene. This movie does represent scale, okay? Sometimes it actually does a better job than I thought. Never as good as the first movie. But the movie's biggest flaw is that it tries to expand too much, it overreaches, it gets convoluted, too many irons in the fire, and it forgot what Pacific Rim was. Here it is. Pacific Rim Uprising is to Pacific Rim how Independence Day Resurgence is to Independence Day. It's the same shit. And it does dawn on me, maybe I'm holding Pacific Rim 1 to a higher standard because I have goggles on. Those nostalgia goggles, just to be sure. I watched the first Pacific Rim last night. Happy to say, very much enjoyed it. Found a lot of enjoyment in it. Also found more flaws than I saw when I first saw it almost half a decade ago. That'll be the case with any movie. Any movie you watch, you can review half a decade later. You kind of see it different. Which, hey, silver lining here. Maybe a half a decade from now, I will look back at Pacific Rim Uprising and actually enjoy it. But for right now, on this day, I'm just not gonna remember this movie in T-minus a couple days. Yep, already forgot. If that rating bothers you, I got just the cure. Bobby's Gypsy in Danger, thank you for coming by today. Alright, so Pacific Rim Uprising, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.